In today's video, we're going to cover the top 5 mistakes to avoid on your pellet smoker. And if you stay to the end of this video, we're also going to cover the 5 best tips and tricks to get you started on your backyard pitmaster journey. When a man turns 35, he has 2 life choices to make. Either get really into World War history or get into backyard barbecue. Now, because our YouTube algorithm overlords know you to a T, I'm going to assume you, just like me, are really into backyard barbecue. Hit that like button if I was right. Now, I made this video for you because I don't want your pellet smoker to explode or catch fire on your pitmaster journey. So let's get started on what not to do. Now, let's quickly go over how a pellet smoker works. And because all pellet smokers work the same, regardless of make or model, this information is going to be universal. This is a hopper. It holds your fuel source, which is wooden pellets. No fuel source, no heat. Next is the auger, and the auger transports your fuel source, which is pellets, into the burn pot. Now in the burn pot, and this is where all your heat and smoky goodness come from. Lastly, you have your cooking chamber, and this is where your large chunks of protein are gonna sit. Now, if you've never used your pellet smoker before, you do have to do a smoker burn off, and I will link a video up here and down below in the description. But in short, all you have to do is put some pellets in the hopper, turn your smoker to 400 degrees, and let the smoker run for about 1 hour. After it cools down, your smoker is ready to rock and roll. Woo! Mistake number 1. This mistake is huge, costly, and so easy to avoid. Now I'm going to show you a series of videos. Try to see what they all have in common. Whoa! Now, if you guess they all exploded, you're correct. But the one thing you missed is all of them had the lid closed. Now you might be thinking, Grill Sergeant, I can't close the lid to my smoker. Well, yes, you can, but you have to avoid mistake number 1, and it's turning on the smoker with the lid closed. Now, I know what you're thinking. Grill Sergeant, that seems so counterintuitive. I don't preheat my oven with the oven door open, but you have to understand how a pellet smoker works. When you first turn it on, what it's doing is dumping fresh pellets into your burn pot, and there's an igniter in there that's heating up, and it's heating up those pellets, and a lot of smoke is being produced. And once those pellets are hot enough, they actually ignite, and then your fire is started. So why does a pellet smoker explode? The issue is, when you have your lid closed, there's a ton of smoke, there's a small ignition, and all that smoke in there combusts. And all that pressure causes the smoker lid to fly off or the smoker to blow up. If you actually read the manual, it will tell you to do this. So how do you avoid this? I'm gonna know. All you have to do is open the lid, turn the power button on, you're gonna see a ton of smoke come out. Once that smoke dissipates, you're gonna hear almost like a jet engine sound, and that's when you're hearing the fire actually roaring in your burn pot. Once that smoke dissipates, close the lid, turn up the temperature, and you will be good to go for the rest of your cook. Mistake number 2. Now, the second mistake actually comes at the end of the cook and is just as dangerous as mistake number 1. At the end of the cook, when your protein's done, you take it off, you admire how beautiful it looks and how much you want to dig into it, and then you turn off your smoker, and guess what? It doesn't turn off. It's almost like your smoker completely ignored you. So you do this. Unplug your smoker. That's the most dangerous thing you can do, and here's why. When you hit the power button and you don't hear your pellet smoker turn off, what it's entering is in the shutdown cycle. That's when the smoker is helping put out the raging fire that you have in the center of the smoker. It's slowly feeding less and less pellets into the burn pot, and that fire gets less and less and less till the fire is extinguished. The issue is, if you unplug your smoker, you still have a raging fire in the center of your smoker, but now the smoker is not helping you put it out. So what happens is you have a raging fire and you have an auger full of pellets. Well, that fire does what a fire does, and it starts consuming the fuel source, which is in your auger. And guess where it leads back up into? Your hopper. And what's in your hopper? A lot of fuel. And if that hopper catches fire, your smoker will catch fire. So how do you avoid this? When you hit the power button and you hear it still going and the fan kick on, do not worry, just let it do its thing, and in 15 to 20 minutes, your smoker will safely turn off. Mistake number 3. Some people do this sometimes, some people don't do it at all, and then some people do it every single time. And the mistake is not emptying out your burn pot after you're done cooking. Now, your burn pot is where it stores all your pellets, and when you're done with the cook, all that fire goes out, but you're left with a bed of ash in your burn pot. And the issue of not cleaning out your burn pot is your bed of ash acts as the new floor for where the pellets land. So if you have a raging fire, and now that raging fire is an inch higher because of all that ash, it's now closer to the auger tube. There will be a fire working its way through the auger tube and trying to get in your hopper. So how do you avoid this mistake? Clean out your burn pot before you start cooking and you will be good to go. Now, what I like specifically about this Pit Boss Competition Series 1600 is you actually have access to the burn pot from underneath the smoker. No need to get your hands all greasy and dirty. All you have to do is go under there, flip the latch, remove the burn pot, you can dump the contents, put it right back in, and you're ready to go. Other smokers, you pretty much have to disassemble all the grates and stuff and deflectors just to get to the burn pot. It is a pain in the butt, but it is worth it to clean out your burn pot. Mistake number 4. This one is such a pain in the and I'll admit, this has happened to me a few times. And it's when you run out of pellets during your cook. See, the cool thing about these smokers is for those long overnight cooks, fill up your hopper, you can go inside and get a beautiful night's sleep. You can't do that on a stick burner, can ya? Checkmate. All joking aside, there is an issue though. If your hopper runs out of pellets, that is a bad thing because now there's no more fuel for your burn pot. And you don't solve this by just putting in more pellets because your auger tube is completely empty. So if you are doing an overnight cook, top off your hopper and you'll be good to avoid that mistake. Mistake number 5, and this deals with actually cleaning your smoker. There was one week where I was testing out different chicken recipes. And if you're doing chicken, you're at high temperatures and there is a lot of grease and fat that gets everywhere inside your smoker. There was so much grease buildup and junk inside my smoker that right when I opened up the sear plate to actually sear something, all that grease and fire literally ignited. Now, if this does happen, the number one thing is do not panic. Close the smoker lid, and then you can either get a spritzer bottle full of water or get baking powder, come back out to the smoker, open the lid, spritz it down, and actually extinguish the fire that way. Pain in the butt, but how do you avoid this? About every month or so, it's time to get on some gloves and actually start getting that smoker clean. A good tool that I use is literally like a paint scraper, and you can literally scrape that grease and junk off of the heat deflector and just make sure you give a good wipe down to your grates and you'll be good to go. So if you're wondering how I got the thumbnail to this video, it was literally after this chicken video. So to avoid that, make sure to clean your smoker at least once a month, or if you've been doing a lot of greasy foods at high temps, it's good to clean it sooner than that. All right, now that we covered what not to do, now to jump in to 5 tips and tricks that will help level up your backyard pitmaster journey. And the first one is actually subscribing to this channel. But all joking aside, if you're actually looking at how to do brisket, ribs, pulled pork, jerky, anything you can smoke, it's pretty much on this channel. So it actually is a good idea if you want to subscribe for awesome barbecue tricks, tips, and ideas. You're gonna find it here. All right, pro tip number 1, priming your burn pot before you turn your smoker on. Now remember when I said cleaning out your burn pot was a good idea? Once your burn pot is clean, the pro tip is actually scooping up a handful of pellets and putting it in your burn pot and then turning your smoker on. What that's doing is already having a fresh batch of pellets at the bottom of the burn pot, and that actually helps your smoker get started in about half the time. So you're definitely going to want to prime the burn pot before you use your smoker. Pro tip number 2, using a water pan. Now, using a water pan has so many advantages to your smoker, but here are my top 3. 1, it helps stabilize the internal temperature inside your smoker. 2, if the water pan is underneath your protein, it also acts as a grease and drip tray. And 3, even if the pan is next to your protein, all that steam helps the smoke bind to your meat. That's a beautiful thing. Pro tip number 3. So this tip is actually a combo one, and it's to cook your meat to an internal temperature, and it's to let that meat rest. So the number one question I usually get in the comment section on my cooking videos is, how long did this take? And I usually don't suggest times, because every smoker is different and every hunk of protein is going to be different for how much marbling and how much fat to meat ratios inside. So it's best to actually go off an internal temperature on your protein and not by time. You will get so much more consistent results actually putting a meat thermometer inside your meat and letting it tell you what the internal temperature is. And the other second important thing is letting your meat rest. It means when you take your brisket out of the smoker, you're letting it rest to 2 to 3 to 4. Heck, some people even let their brisket rest for 8 hours before slicing into it. Well, why do they do this? Well, as the meat's cooling, it's taking all that moisture and pulling it back to the center of the meat. Why is that a good thing? Well, when you slice into your brisket and you see it just dripping and so juicy and full of flavor, that's because that brisket had rested minimum 2 to 4 hours of resting. Just let it rest and then dig in. It will be worth it. Pro tip number 4, use different hardwoods. The first mistake when I got a pellet smoker is, well, what bag of pellets do I get? And a lot of times you'll see, oh, this is a competition mix, or this is a backyard mix. And you look at the back of the bag and it says, this can pretty much smoke everything from brisket to pork to seafood to wild game to desserts. This, since it does everything, this must be good, right? So the mistake is, if you're just getting a bag of pellets as a jack of all trades, you are really missing out at certain flavors to really dial in your barbecue. Do you like your smoke strong or subtle? Do you like your smoke sweet or savory? These all play a factor into dialing in your perfect backyard barbecue that's fit to your taste. Do you like a really strong smoky flavor? Hey, try out hickory or mesquite. If you like it dialed back but still kind of like a woodsy smoke, try oak. So for me, if I'm doing, Texas style barbecue, I'm mixing post oak pellets with pecan pellets. But the best tip you can do is start experimenting with different hardwoods and do not stick with one bag for the entire time you're using your smoker. Pro tip number 5. So this tip really helps you understand the inside of your smoker really well, and it's called the biscuit test. So what it is you're actually putting biscuits all over the inside of your smoker and letting your smoker run for about 15-20 minutes at 250 to 300 degrees. And then what you're doing is checking the undersides of the biscuits. There's some that are going to be cooked more and there's some that are going to be cooked less. And it helps you visually see the hot and cool zones of your smoker. How this is handy in knowing is, if say you're cooking 2 pork butts and one's cooking a little faster, well, during the cook, you can actually swap pork butts, one on the cooler side, one on the hotter side, because trust me, at the end of your barbecue, you kind of want all the food to come off at the same time. You don't want to say, well, I have to wait another 3 hours because it was on the cool side the whole time. So to avoid that, know the hot and cool sides of your smoker, and you can get that done with the biscuit test. Let me know in the comments what tip you enjoyed the best, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Grill Sergeant out.